on this topic, I want to know how you define racism. Let's start with you, Dewan. Let's go with how you feel about racism.
Well, racism is a practice. That's what ism is, the suffix ism. Race is the differences in who we are. Ism is the practice of maintaining the system that divides us.
Okay.
And so racism, that's racism to me. Racism is the way of controlling the social hierarchy.
Okay. I like that.
Okay, Cindy, how do you feel?
I believe, you know, if you really boil it down and you just look at the simple definition of racism, racism is the belief that one race is either superior or inferior to another race based on characteristics of that race. And how that manifests is a different topic, but that is the definition of racism.
So you do believe that it happens between two different races?
Yes, right?
Okay.
Because there is the belief that one ethnic group is superior or inferior to another ethnic group, and that's a little bit different, just a little bit.
Okay.
Because they convolute ethnicity and race together, but truly racism is defined as one race believing that another race is superior or inferior based on characteristics that are inherent with that particular group, race.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Dewan, based on your definition, why can't black people be racist?
Black people don't have the economic resources to be racist. Racism is a practice. Like, when we can test this out, as a black person, I can't go to a white person and put them in jail off my word. I need another white person to validate my word. Now, a white person can go and say, hey, that black person did it, no matter how much money he has.
That's right.
And that black person can then go to jail. That's the ism. That's the practice of racism. Racism is the denial of wealth and resources based on skin tone and based on race. Race, at the end of the day, is something that's made up. It's not real.
Right.
And so the ism is a practice of something that is
Well, what
real.
about the wealthy black people then?
Well,
Are they included in that?
The wealthy black people are included in that.
Okay.
Bill Cosby's in jail by someone who looks like Steve Nash, and she didn't have any resources, and she put him in jail, whether he did it or not. And so I'm not here to say he did it or not, but
yes, that's a whole nother case. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know whether he did it or not, but what I'm saying is you saw someone with no power take down someone with power, versus when we look at some of these other people that we see out here with power, people that are black can accuse them and get them taken down without the validation of a white person to go with what they said.
Get him, Gwendolyn.
Okay, so based on what you're saying, that black people can't be racist with one another, but if one is wealthy, then it means they could be racist?
Well, I would say black people can be prejudiced towards one another. We can be bigoted. We can be evil. We can be mean-spirited. We can say mean things. But we can't practice racism on other black people on other people in general because we don't have the power, wealth, or resources to do it.
Okay, let's ask Cindy.
Okay.
What is your opinion on this, Cindy? I'm sorry.
Elise.
I'm Cindy, and that's Elise.
Donny, Cindy, and Elise. Okay.
We got to get you into discussion. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So my definition, or the definition that I work with on racism, is a blend of the two of yours. I believe that racism is the belief that one race is greater than another, but it's operating on a construct that's created, especially in America. It's a white supremacist base. Like, that's where we're coming from. We live in a white supremacist country, and that's not an opinion, it's a fact. But the way that racism manifests, it doesn't necessarily mean that because I am a biracial black woman that I can't be racist against black or any other non-white race.
So your mother's white?
What was that?
Your mother's white, Cindy? I mean, Elise, your mother's white? Your mother's white?
My father is white. My mother's black. And we've been married for 39 years. They just celebrated their anniversary.
Wow, that's incredible.
So did you guys have any division in the home about racism?
The conversation in the home was never really about race. It came up in certain situations, like how to fill out our college applications, because when I was applying for college, there was an other box, but there wasn't a biracial box, and I didn't know whether to pick black or white. And I always had that dichotomy of like, which one do I pick? Because I was raised equally by both parents, and actually I was raised closer to my white family. And the black side of my family is on the other side of the country, and we only saw them once a year. So the way that
do you not
yeah.
then believe that black people can be racist?
I believe absolutely that for me, myself, I know what racism looks like, and I know that I've done it. I know that I have been really racist in my past. I know that that's the way that I was raised, and I know that that it's taken a lot to heal and unlearn and unpack all of that. But the idea that I couldn't be racist because I was black is what kept me in that box.
Okay.
Kept me from healing for so long.
Very interesting, because I mean, I'm also the same as you. My mother is black, she's Jamaican, and my father is white. He's English and Irish. And when I came to America, my mother was very serious at 16 years old, and I came, about letting me know about that box. And she said to me, well, when you're in America, when you got one drop of black blood in you, girl, you're black. So you better check that box. And I had to learn that at that age, at 16. So, you know, and then from there on, I've learned being in America that I am a black woman. So, yeah.
But you know what?
I embrace that. But it's interesting to me that you got to the college age with your mother and living here in America, Wisconsin you're from, yeah?
Yes.
And that never came about before that?
It did come up occasionally, but there was never a time that my parents sat me down and told me that I was black.
Oh.
I know, I mean, obviously, like, in American history, I know about the one drop rule. Like, I know about how that works, but there was something in me for so long, which is something that I now recognize as being a weakness and being something that was a detriment to my character, a detriment to my personality and who I've grown to be now. It's a challenge that I had to overcome because I didn't want to only see myself as one race. I wanted to equally see myself biracial and let both of those exist together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a really hard thing for me also because I, growing up in a society where everyone around me is white, looking up to people that, like, seeing the popular girls in my school, the way that they dressed, the way they did their hair, the things that they said, the things that they did, I wanted to be just like them.
And what about Mum? Did she ever say, let me try to find you a black baby doll so you can see what they look like?
We did have black baby dolls.
You did?
What did your father say?
Yeah.
My father didn't really, didn't really talk about it.
Here's why I'm asking, Lisa.
Yeah.
On the Mike and Donny show, we keep it real. We get down to the nitty gritty.
I'm excited about it, yes.
So I want to know
Also on the Gwendolyn and Donny show.
The Gwendolyn and Donny show, you know, because she's here. She's a good host. I want to know, what was your father saying? What type of nasty things about black people was he saying?
Nasty things about black people.
No, because you said that you identify with your white side.
Yeah.
So I know in some homes, people say things in the homes that they wouldn't say in the street.
Absolutely.
And we know that because black people, we do it.
And that did
you know
exist.
what I'm saying?
That
so
did exist,
I want to know, because we keep it real here, what would your father say?
Black and white dysfunction looks different and was talked about differently in my household. There was equal amount of dysfunction on both sides, but the way that we talked about the white dysfunction was so different.
Tell me about it.
It was compassionate. It was like, oh, poor so-and-so, they have
For the
a
white
drug
people?
problem.
Wow. Poor to the white people.
Family,
wow.
And what about the black people?
And all of my black uncles that were in and out of prison were looked down upon. Shamed. How dare he? Like, why is he going to prison? Like, I wish he would just pick himself up, get his act together. And that's how it was talked about in my household from both of my parents.
Cindy, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. I feel like you have a lot to say.
You know, I think I too don't look maybe on the outside biracial, but my mother's Chinese. Wow. My dad is black. My parents divorced when I was quite young, so I grew up in a very Chinese home with a very Chinese mother. I speak fluent, I speak Cantonese, I understand Cantonese, but my mother, you know, she's old now. She was born in 1937, but I grew up with, I know, she's been around and had a very interesting life, but that's a whole other story.
Right.
But my mother was very clear. She would sit me down as a child and say, people are gonna look at you and think you're a little black child.
Okay.
Wow.
Right? They're gonna not know.
What age were you when she did that?
Probably maybe in the 3rd grade.
Okay.
Right?
Right, so around 8, 9?
Yeah, around 8 or 9.
Okay.
And they would sit there, she would sit there and say, remember always that they're gonna look at you and they're going to make these assumptions about you, that you're not smart because you look black, that you're not, that you are poor.
But that's
back
a
in
lot
the
of
day,
big assumptions,
yes,
right?
But this is what she would tell me, that they're going to assume that you come from a family that uses welfare or food stamps, right?
Wow.
That's what my mom would say, and she would say, you aren't any of those things. You can be whatever you want. Remember, you have Chinese blood. You can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. You do not have to conform to what people think of you are. You are just as smart as anybody else of any other race. I didn't grow up believing that because I was half black, half Chinese, that I was somehow a victim.
So do you believe that black people can be racist?
Yes, because I believe that racism is not an action. Racism, boiled down, is a belief. And black people can have that belief. It is not just racism, that belief is not just for white people, although they've taken it and run with it and seem to have perfected it, but it exists in all different races, right?
So do you two both then disagree with Dewan?
Yeah, I do, because I think that racism is a belief. How it manifests through prejudice, discrimination, political systems, you know, housing covenants, is the actions, right? It's discrimination based on race. The act is the discrimination. The reason why somebody is being discriminated on, it's race-based. I believe you are inferior particular race, so therefore I am going to act to disenfranchise you in some way or another.
Dewan, man, I need to know what's your thoughts on what she
just said.
To me, it's a practice, because this is a practice that we can date back to 1640 in the Virginia colony, race going into law. It wasn't just someone saying, okay, we don't like them black people, you can't work for me. Right. It was saying, let's put this into law. With the color of your skin, you cannot own property.
It's a systematic.
It's a systematic thing. When we look at this, people talk about after slavery, 40 acres and the mules. We didn't get our 40 acres and a mule, but they don't talk about the fact that the Homestead Act was passed, where white people got 160 acres. All they had to do was sign their name on the list, and you go ahead and get 160 acres to fill out the West because of the color of your skin.
Right.
Now, if you're black, you can't get this land. If you're black, you can't get these rights. So, if racism was just an opinion, I can deal with you not liking me.
Right.
Hell, I don't like midgets because I'm scared they're gonna fall and hurt my knees.
Wow.
But I'm not gonna go and say all. I'm not gonna say all doorknobs need to be 7 feet tall to deny them rights from getting in the door.
Well, Dewan, we're gonna go to the audience off of that, okay?
No offense to midgets. We like everybody.
He just went in very different
No offense
direction
to
there.
midgets.
I'm not a midget racist though, because I'm not gonna move the doorknobs.
We
gotta call them little
people.
Okay,
Dewan.
okay. My bad.
This is Fox Soul.
I'm fat, so I'm not sensitive. I'm bad, my bad.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so audience question, what's your name and what's your question?
My name is Michelle, and my question is, as far as the usage of the as far as the usage of the N-word and the many facets that it can be used, how do you feel about that as far as it connects to racism?
Let's ask Elise that.
A black person can use that word and a white person can use that word.
I'm not trying to pick on you, Elise.
I love it. Make me uncomfortable. Like, the only way that I can grow is to be uncomfortable, so I'm happy with it.
That's it. That was a great one.
So, I don't use it. And the only time that I do is when I'm quoting someone, and it's a necessary quote.
Have your parents? I'm sorry.
I learned about the N-word in my 5th grade class. I had a teacher. I'm not going to name him, but I want to.
Please name him.
But
he's not here.
Was he white or black?
He was white.
Okay.
And he was a bigot, and there was no doubt about that. He showed up 2 years in a row in blackface for Halloween and got away with it.
Wow.
Dressed as Gilbert Brown from the Packers. That's not a lie. There's pictures. But anyway, he handed out a piece of paper to every student in our class of someone holding a sign with the N-word on it. And keep in mind, there was me, 1, 2, 5 black kids in my whole class, and like both, because they were like, it was split. So like in my whole grade, I mean, in my grade in my school in 5th grade, 5 black kids, and he's like, this is a word that was used to discriminate against black people. And you don't teach that word to a classroom full of white kids.
How did you take that at that time, since you weren't really identifying as a black girl?
I was really uncomfortable with it, and it was like, I don't think that anyone should be saying this. So I took it home and I asked my mom. And my mom said, if anyone ever uses this word around you or at you, you have my permission to hit them.
I love it. But I want to ask you, did you ask your dad?
No, I didn't.
Why
not? See, you know, that's a really good question. I knew that was my. That's a really good question. Why didn't I ask my dad about that?
Because you knew he was racist?
No.
Or prejudiced? Let me keep
Okay.
question.
No, I think it's really good. I think it's wonderful that you're calling out my dad as racist, because that's not a perspective that I've thought of.
Okay.
I don't look at racism and someone being labeled a racist as being like a brand that they cannot unlearn and that it's like with them forever. I believe that it's something that I've carried with me for a long time, that I like grew a lot of shame about, and then just like it basically grew a callus over my racism. I'm like, please don't anyone see me. I'm just never going to have a conversation about it. Yeah, but it was also my own manifestation of it, like how it grew and how, like, through my experiences, these little seeds started to grow, where they took root and how I allowed them, where I watered them. You know.